The 1977 World Hockey Championships featured the return of Canada to international play after being out, protesting a lack of pros in the championship, despite Russia and the different countries had their own pro players. Majority of the players who went there were from teams that didn't make the playoffs. California, Cleveland, especially the Rangers. Esposito, Gilbert, Tony Esposito was there as well. Now, it was a bizarre series because Phil Esposito was forced to wear a helmet at the tournament. He was really pissed off. That was but with the least of Team Canada's worries. We were called goons like in 72, and with Eric Vale and Paymont and some other rough players there. Eric Vale was suspended for the tournament for an on-ice incident. It became bizarre, and Canada should have easily won a medal. They even defeated the world champions 8-2 in the last game of the set, Czechoslovakia, but they ended out in the medals in a strange format. It was a B-, but Canada was the best team in that tournament. It took a while to kick in because the biggest problem is the big loss to Russia. We'll get that in a second. Now, the 77 Ice Worlds took place in Vienna in April 21st to May 8th. 8 squads took part in the A pool, first playing each other once, then the 4 best teams advancing to a new round. The tournament was also the 55th Ice Hockey European Championship. Czechoslovakia won for the 5th time, and second in a row claimed their 14th and final European title as well. Now, Canada returned after 8-year absence with a team comprised completely of NHL players from teams that had missed the Stanley Cup playoffs. But Ron Ellis came back as well out of retirement, and I think Dallas Smith as well. While being competitive in most games, many people, including Canadians, were reportedly upset by our team's conduct on the ice and after the contests. The squad also refused to listen to the opposing team's national anthems when they lost, and the coach, Donnie Wilson, explained their multiple penalties by saying, "We just couldn't compete, especially against the Soviets. It is natural to try to get revenge." Even the game with Czechoslovakia, I think they were on the shorthand for maybe half the game. The tournament itself was very close for the medals with a spectacular last day. Canada, with a chance to still get a bronze, set a record by defeating the Czechs 8-2. Never before had a first-place team lost the games that badly. But the Swedes, by beating the Soviets for a second time, saved the Czechs, and at the same time pushed themselves in the second and Canada in the fourth. Now, ironically, ladies and gentlemen, at that time, Russia had done a lot of Super Series visits to Canada, were starting to weaken, but the Czechs were playing more the North American style, especially the Stashties, who ended up in Quebec just a couple of years later. Now, in the first round, Sweden went 6-0-1, Soviets 6-0-1, Czechs 5-1-1, and Canada 4-1-2. Now, Finland 3-0-4, States 1-1-5, West Germany 1-1-5, and Romania 0-7. Now, this is sort of like how the Olympics showed up tournament a couple of years later. Now, Canada opened their first game back again in 8 years with a 4-1 victory against the States, but then lost 4-2 in a tough game against Sweden. Lost 11-1 to the Soviets. That's the game we were talking about. That was just a shit show. But from then on, Canada rebounded. They tied the Czechs 3-3, and a slight upset bet Finland 5-1. They defeated also West Germany 9-3 and Romania 7-2. Now, not to be critical of Czechs and the Russians, but they were rolling up the score in a lot of games. The Czechs won 11-3 against Finland, 10-0 against Germany, 11-6 against Finland, 11-1 against Canada. Czechs won 13-1 against Romania, 18-1 for the Soviets against Romania, like I said, they were just rolling up the score. States won 8-2, lost 8-2 to the Soviets, won 6-1 against the Czechs. Now, the Soviet Union were pretty well the best team in the tournament, but the problem is they couldn't beat the Swedes. Now, after the final round, Czechoslovakia 7-1-2, 15 points. Sweden 7-1-3, 14 points. Soviet Union with 14 points tied, but he got bronze because of the head-to-head play. And Canada ended up 6-1-3. Now, Canada in the final round defeated the Swedes 7-0. This is the second place team. Czechs nipped the Soviets 4-3 and Sweden 2-1. Soviets hammered us 19-2 in those two games combined. 8-2 for Canada against the Czechs, where I think it's 7 or 8 different players scored for Canada, and Sweden won 3-1 in the final. Now, ironically, ladies and gentlemen, Romania, again, the bad tournament continued. They lost 14-1 to Finland in the postseason. They did, the playoffs. They did beat the States 5-4 and lost to West Germany 3-2. So they were relegated as well. Now in the World Championship Group B in Japan, East Germany 8-0, Poland 6-0-2, Japan 5-1-2, Norway, Switzerland, Hungary, Yugoslavia, Netherlands, and Austria. Now as host of the World A level, Austria didn't get a bye. I think that's been changed since then. But now Group C was in Denmark. Italy won that tournament, followed by the host Bulgaria, France, Spain, Belgium, and Great Britain. Now Italy was again promoted to Group B. Now the final standings at the Worlds: Czechoslovakia, Sweden, the Soviet Union, Canada, Finland, the States, Germany, and Romania. Now, despite the Canadians and Swedes having some really good players, as well as in Canada, they did make the All-Star game. Gordon Augusta, a future NHLer, was named by the directorate as best goalie, best defenseman Valery Vasiliev, and of course best forward, the great Helmut Balderas. Media All-Star team: Augusta won, Popisil and Vasiliev, Popisil with Czechoslovakia, and the forwards Balderas, Martinik, and Petrov. Ladies and gentlemen, final standing of the European Championship according to the IHF: Czech, Swede, Soviet, Finland, West Germany, and Romania. So the interesting coverage of the tournament by John Esau and I think Tom Watt was doing color. Basically, the video was so terrible. But the idea of seeing Phil Esposito with a helmet on, he was pissed off the whole tournament. I think it was shades of 72. But Ron Ellis, the two Espositos were there. And it was a very, very interesting combination of players. And I want you to listen to this list. This is almost like a B-level All-Star team for the NHL. Some really good players. Pierre LaRouche was there. He had 15 points. Espo, of course, always great at the Worlds or the Canada, the Summit Series, 10 points. Will Paymont, 32 minutes in penalties, the fucking goon. Ellis had 5 big goals in the series in 10 games. Al McAdam, the later Montreal killer, 8 points in 10 games. Wayne Merrick, the future Stanley Cup goal scorer, 7 points. The very underrated Walt McKechnie, 7 points. Ralph Klassen, 6 points. Eric Vale, again, only played 9 games because he was suspended for the last game against the Czechs. Carol Vadnais, the former Hab, traded to the Rangers, 4 points. Jean Pronovost, the great Pittsburgh forward, the All-Star, 4 points in 7 games. Gilbert, maybe, again, another 72 alumni, 4 points in 10 games. Ricky Hantum, on defense, 3 points in 10 games. Phil Russell, 3 assists. Greg Smith, the goal and assists. Dallas Smith, again, in the comeback, 2 assists. Dennis Kearns from Vancouver, 1 point in 10 games. Guy Charon didn't play most of the series, but was there as a Washington representative. And of course, Jim Rutherford and Tony Esposito shared the duties. So, again, Will Paymont, a goon like that against the Russians, there was a lot of stick work. But Ronnie Ellis had lost his mind. One of the announcers said even Ronnie Ellis is sticking his to us. But it's kind of weird, ladies and gentlemen. If you would have lost the 2 games, the Russians be world. But again, to be outscored 19-2 in those 2 games. Because Canada would keep it close. I think one game he scored 6 goals in the third period. It was a freaky deaky. But you could feel the tension. John Esau, because he had covered 74, when he wasn't hawking, Olympic coins in the commercials in the 74 Summit Series coverage. But there was no Don Chevrier. He would have been a good call there. But at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we had no idea. And Team Canada's jerseys, the multicolored, just some of the best jerseys I've ever seen in my life. I still say Team Canada should bring that back. 74 was just kind of a nondescript, across like the Rangers. But I loved that 78 jersey. It was sort of like a modern psychedelic, like we called the disco Team Canada jersey. But to see, again, the weird side of Phil Esposito with a helmet on, kind of freaky. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of Austria 77, where Team Canada, again, shades of 72 and 74, but the referees really, really picked on Team Canada, especially in a game against the Czechs. But I don't know if the Czechs basically figured that we're going to stop the Russians from winning a bronze by allowing Canada to win. Did they choke? They asked Stashny later on, did your team not play 100%? He said, I got no answer for you. So that's the story of Team Canada at the World Hockey Championships in 77. A return, but again, by 78 when he won the medal, they got better. But you got to understand this, ladies and gentlemen, after what happened in 72 and 74 for us to play in 77, it was, we gave him the benefit of the doubt and he fucked us over again. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our international history essays on hockey, on Sports File, let us know when to like, comment, subscribe, or share.